Now, I don't know if you can tell, but this video is going to be recorded using a different microphone. And typically I've been using this right here, which is the Neat Mic's King B2. But right now I'm going to be doing this video entirely using the Neat Mic Worker B2. Now, this is a microphone that gives you a lot of what's in this one, but in a slimmer profile. Of course, this is going to be the one that you're probably going to want to lean more towards. But if you're on a budget and you need a professional level mic, this is going to get you going. Now, if you're going to be using this for voiceovers, for streaming, for YouTube videos, and I'm going to be covering all that and more in this review for the Neat Mic's Worker B2. Let's go ahead and get into it.
This wasn't written with your comfort in mind. Nah. Made my decision, wasn't tough to decide. Nah. Me and my boys, we get it done every time. Gotta earn it, you can't just jump in the line. You'll get rushed to the side. I top my division, I've been building since I started. In the parking lot, I parked it. I came in while picking targets. My career cannot be tarnished. I'm a champion regardless. Celebrate, but this is a different kind of lucha party. We are not alike.
Now, before we kick off this video, I want to give a huge shout out and mahalo to Neat Microphones for sending this over. This is, as I said earlier, this is the Worker B2. This is the little brother to the King B2. And this microphone, this has been my GOAT. This is a microphone that I go to for just about everything that I use. And before I was using this one, I was using the Rode Procaster, which is a microphone that I've used for years and I absolutely love it. And I didn't think that that microphone would be topped until I got the King B2. And, you know, shout out to my homie Grounded Tech, because he's the one who sold me on Neat microphones being as amazing as they are. And then, hey, I've got the opportunity to work with them. And then, man, I absolutely love their products. But now we're going to be talking about the Worker B2 and why this might become your new favorite microphone. Before we dive into any of that, if you want to pick up this microphone or if you want to pick up the King B2, I will have links down in the description below. They are affiliate links. So if you use it, there's no additional charge to you. I do get a little bit of kickback, which helps out the channel. And outside of that, if you enjoy the content that I put out, then make sure you like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and also go check us out on patreon.com/MikelCasanova or channel memberships here on YouTube, as well as our merch over on Teespring and TeePublic. All that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this review of the Neat Mic's Worker B2. If you're curious as to what the specs are for the Worker B2, then let's go ahead and dive into that right now. So the Worker B2 has a cardioid polar pattern with a frequency response time of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, a sensitivity of 19.0 MV at 1 kHz, with an output impedance of 50 ohms, as well as a dynamic range of 134 decibels. Now, this does have a requirement for about 48 volts DC phantom power, which the majority of audio interfaces will be able to take care of for the Worker B2. Now, the Worker B2 is a fairly lightweight microphone, especially in comparison to the King B2, where that microphone, it had some heft to it, you know, not including the fact that it had a shock mount as well. And that's one of the other things I want to say that is a difference between the Worker B2 and the King B2, whereas the King B2, it's a fairly heavy microphone. It also has a shock mount, whereas the Worker B2, this is about as much as you're gonna get with it. It's not including a shock mount. Now, you can fit it onto shock mounts, like if you wanted to. There's various ones you can get, like third parties off of Amazon, that you can get to work with this. But as it is, it comes with a swivel mount, and you just go ahead and put the Worker B2 on that and go from there. Now, that doesn't keep it from like dealing with reverberations or shocks or movement. And that's something I kind of feel like for a microphone that's at the price range that it is, kind of makes sense. I'm not going to be mad about them not including a shock mount with it. But if a shock mount is important to you, you can buy a third-party one. But yeah, if I really was up in the air choosing between this and the King B2, I'm just going to go with the King B2, just because it's just a more powerful microphone overall, plus a shock mount. But as it is, this is a very lightweight microphone, very good. The polar pattern pickup is cardioid, so it's really good. And it's one that, because of this being the type of microphone that it is, you don't have to have it right up on you to just pick up like you would with dynamic microphones. So I can be a comfortable distance away from this microphone and it can still pick up my voice. Typically, if you ever see me in a video where it's really close, just because that's how I'm sitting in, distance away from it. But realistically, I could just sit here and just talk straight into it and it's still going to pick up my voice. And that's something that I really like about these types of XLR microphones, like, condenser microphones versus dynamic ones. And this is a condenser, which one of the things with condenser microphones you should be aware of if you're not familiar with that already is typically you want to have a curated, like a sound treated room just because of the noise they can pick up. For all intents and purposes, yeah, condenser mics, they're very good for capturing like the broad spectrum of your voice. You can have a deep voice or a high pitched voice or, use them for singing, voice acting. They are very good for just capturing that full range. Whereas dynamic microphones, they're very good for noise isolation. And this is why you also have to sit up on them because they capture directly your voice. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to showcase for you guys was the settings that I used for the Worker B2 with the GoXLR. These are settings that I'm using primarily. So when it comes to mic profiles, I'll show you guys the mic setup. As you can see right here, I've got it set to 30 decibels, but I can take it down a little bit to 28 and it'll get rid of the peaking. I just typically have it at that setting just because that's more so what I'm comfortable using. But we have it there. You can take it all the way up to 72 and that's woo. But I like to keep it at 28 because that's why I feel like my voice is perfectly comfortable with this mic in these settings. So you also have your 3.5 millimeters as well as your dynamic. This is with the GoXLR, but this is where I have it set for the gain. Now, if we are to look at the individual settings that I have over here, so as far as the gate, my gate is set to negative 54 decibels, attenuation's at 14%, attack is at 60 milliseconds, release is at 110 milliseconds, my bass is at 3 for the equalizer, mids at -1, treble is at 6. Now when it comes to the compressor, threshold is at -25 decibels, ratio is at 2:1, the attack is at 6 milliseconds, release is at 55 milliseconds, and the makeup gain is at 8 decibels. I can actually drop the makeup gain because that's not exactly necessary, but I like to keep a little on here. Typically 8 I feel is comfortable for me, but I could always just take it down to 5 and 5 would be perfectly comfortable. But beyond that, that's where I found the settings perfect for me for the Worker B2 microphones. Like I just don't find anything else to work better. And I can use these similar settings too with the King B2, but you just want to tweak and find the perfect range for your voice. So this is what the King B2 sounds like when it's connected to my audio interface, which is the GoXLR. And as you can see, I've got it perfectly attuned to my voice to be able to produce the best sound possible when it's going through the audio interface. Now, this is the mic of choice that I use when I'm doing my podcast, as well as doing voiceovers for the various products that I do reviews for, as well as for doing VO work for video games and anime. This is the microphone that I like to use, and it's honestly one of the best on the market. Okay, so now that you've heard what the King B2 sounds like, now you're hearing this, although for the entirety of this video, you've been hearing this microphone exclusively. So that was the exception. Now we're back to this. But this is what the Neat Mic's Worker B2 sounds like. It's a very crisp and clean microphone. It's very punchy. I will say the difference between this and the King B2 is the fact that the King B2 just has more depth and punchiness to it. It's more of a higher end professional level mic. Not saying that this is lower end. I wouldn't even call this a budget mic because it's not. It's a professional level mic. Neat Mics they don't make budget mics. When you think budget mic, you think cheap. You think, easily replaceable. Every mic that Neat Mics makes, from the Worker B2, the King B2, the Bumble B2, they all sound incredibly professional. So you don't have to worry about, are you getting a cheap mic? They all sound great. It's just, what are you going to be using it for? This right here, great for voiceover, great for streaming, great for content creating, and just about anything you're doing. If you're doing a podcast, man, grab some of these and you'll be ready to go. If you're doing voiceover work, like I do VO for video games and anime, hey, this is perfectly good for it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can endorse it anymore. I think this is absolutely fantastic. But yes, this is what the Worker B2 sounds like. Okay, so with everything being said, I'm going to boil down to like my final thoughts on the Worker B2 and overall how I feel about it. And I personally feel that it's a perfect microphone, especially if you're going to do anything from streaming, podcasting, content creating, if you're going to use this for voiceover work, if you're going to use it, you know, literally for, you know, vlogging and all that too. Well, you know, you could always get one of those camera mounts that uses the XLR, and as long as it gets that 48 volts of phantom power, it should be fine. But, you know, all in all, I think it's a very solid mic. It's got so much going for it that I just, for the price, I really can't see you going wrong. And I know this is priced comparatively to the Rode mic, which is also a really good mic as well. I mean, they're roughly around the same price, but you're gonna have to decide which type of microphone do you want. Do you want a condenser microphone or do you want a dynamic microphone? That's going to be the difference you're going to need to understand and figure out which works best for you. The type of environment that you have, is it curated? Is it uncurated? Do you want to have that boomy, bassy voice, or do you want the full range and spectrum of what the microphone can capture from your voice? All those are questions you're going to need to answer for yourself. But for me personally, Neat Microphones has not missed with any of the mics they've made, from the Skyline to the Worker B2 here, the King B2, the Bumblebee 2. Everything has been perfect. I literally can't find fault with any of their microphones. And yeah, I think these are just going to be the ones I'm using. And am I saying that because I'm a little biased? I'm biased because it's good, if that makes any sense, but I really love these microphones. And I think if you're in the market for a new microphone, this is probably going to be one you should consider picking up. But with that being said, those are my thoughts with the Worker B2. It's an excellent microphone. I think has a lot of versatility and a lot of things that you could definitely do with it. And all that being said, if you guys are interested in picking one of these up, I will have affiliate links down below in the description. I also have affiliate links for the King B2 if you're more interested in this microphone. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, if you want more tech reviews, game reviews, tutorials, and so much more. I also did a podcast where I interviewed people who created the Neat Microphones, the CEO and founders. So if you guys are interested in that type of content, I do host Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Cast #1 podcast, where I interview those type of individuals. All that being said, though, I really want to give a special thank you to Neat Microphones for giving me the opportunity again to cover another one of their amazing products. I'm super satisfied with this. But with all that being said, I hope you guys have an aloha and blessed rest of your day. If you want to support the content further, we got Patreon, we got channel memberships, we also got merch on Teespring and TeePublic. But with all that being said, I hope you guys have a great and aloha, blessed rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Mahalo for your time. If you found this episode to be incredibly enjoyable, informative, or if there's anything you gain from it, or any insight, or anything that's good that you really enjoyed, make sure whatever platform you're listening to it on, or if you're watching it, leave a comment if that's available on the platform, like it, share it around with someone you think would enjoy it, and give us some feedback, because your feedback is exactly what we need to keep this show going. And if you're wondering what are some ways that you could support the show, we got various ways. We've got Patreon, we have channel memberships over on YouTube, as well as Subscribestar, Coffee, and so much more. Links for everything will be in the description. Check that out. And with all that being said, I hope you have an aloha rest of your day.
Let them know that I'm next level. I'm a whole new kind of guy. Yeah. Yes, at the top spot, in case you forgot. We the ones that got the block hot, bullet got the shot.